First day of the week, first day of the month in the second half of the year. Good morning and welcome to the morning brief on Channels Television. How time flies, but of course we're taking flight with all of our dreams, with all of the things that we have committed to, and one of which is your perfect morning starter. You know, I never do this alone. I am always blessed among men, Jeffrey and Kayode. Good morning. How's your weekend, guys?
By the way, she's Bukola Coca. Coca. She calls her. You're wondering.
Yes, I am. It hasn't changed yet.
Well, how's the weekend? Was that the question?
Yes.
So that, I mean, all things are passed away, right? That's last month, last half of a year. You know, it's a long time ago, right? We're in a new half of a year, new month entirely. But it was a weekend, I must tell you that. It was a weekend.
It was a weekend,
really,
right?
It was a weekend.
With so many unexpected things, Jeffrey.
Yes, you know, for the work we do, sometimes you try to just get off the news and do something else, but you can't run away from it. For me, it was not a very exciting weekend, especially for the people of Borno State, and seeing all of that happen. But on the other hand, again, reading from experts on the economy side, I understand that perhaps inflation may peak at June. What that simply means is that it can start to, you know, reduce or come down. Maybe in July, we don't know.
Or the rate of increase slows down.
So, you know, it has already slowed down.
So maybe that's what we'll see again.
I believe in the last 2 months or so, the rate of increase has slowed.
Yeah, it has slowed down. So marginally now, it's going marginally. So anything less than 1 or slightly above 1. So let's say maybe June, July, we can begin to see. But the aspiration of the government to hit it at 21, that may still be a tall order. But at the end of the day, it's just about the feeling. There's this guy I've been watching on TikTok, and he's a farmer. Maybe one of these days I have to bring him to the studio. He goes to farms in the north and different parts of the country, and was literally raising alarm over the issue of the experiences of farmers and all of that. And the fact that if we don't do something now, that food may be difficult even for next year. So we have to work hard as a government, as a people, to make sure that doesn't happen for our people, because that could be a recipe for chaos.
And, you know, we shouldn't be caught napping or relax just because, you know, inflation, the rate of inflation increase is slowing down. Because are we doing all of the right things? You know, we talk about Gwaza, where the unfortunate incident took place over the weekend. And in that state alone, not to talk of other parts of the north, the production rate of sorghum has slowed, you know, because of the challenge of insecurity. Farmers are not going to farm. So these are the real issues. And, you know, this also has an effect on the manufacturing sector that require, sectors that require, you know, raw materials, you know. So production in that area is slowing, and we know about divestment, a number of divestments that are taking place already. So are we, as a result of, you know, this obvious gap in agriculture and in the industry sector, are we going to be witnessing another spike, yet another spike in inflation? A valid question to ask. You know, but well, that's not all that we have, Kayode. Okay, go ahead, Kayode.
There's a lot to wrap your head around. That's why we're here, to basically walk you through, help you understand what's going on, give you expert opinion, and give you that bright start to your day. They say information is power. Some other guy says info, laugh info. Right? If you're Yoruba, you understand that you fly with information. And that is according to Lai Wasabi. So stay with us right here on your perfect day start at the morning brief. Bukola.
Yes, Kayode, you know, I recall during my youth
at the wedding in
days.
Abuja. This is you're smiling. I'm not like, did you go to Sharon, not just bet the wedding? Since you missed Davido's
no,
I know you were not there.
That was an awesome wedding, by the way, but I was an online participant. But I recall my youth service days, guys, in the last few hours or so, where you didn't want to serve in your place of primary assignment, your state, you could have an arrangement with your state coordinator for a return to your state of origin or your state of residence, and then you part with part of your allowance.
Do they still do that?
To pay this, I don't know if that is still being done, you know, but some of us did not opt for that option because we were too honest.
As I was going to ask you.
To do the wrong things. No, I served in Bayelsa State, so just relax.
Okay.
I did.
As I'm going to call you out.
Or you told your PBA people to reject, you said they can send it somewhere
I didn't do the...
Like that you have some funny ailments, you know?
You know, but I recall that time of my life because of the taxi driver who is currently trending, the taxi driver from UK, who is still receiving 150,000 naira allowance. And we could salary from the federal government. And we cannot talk enough about this because
really?
taxi driver, along with
a Nigerian taxi driver
yes,
in the UK, still collecting 150,000 naira
salary
from our civil service.
Yes, so that taxi driver, along with others who the state government has alleged are still receiving salaries, cannot be doing that without being in cahoots with their line managers or with some officials in the Nigerian civil service that may be fingered if this investigation is done.
Look, the truth, if we want to say the real truth, they say after God is government. Whatever is allowed to go on, trust me, there are institutional collaboration. Government is very powerful, has the resources and the know-how to catch anyone and anything they want to catch. So when it goes on, I mean, mention literally anything, we can find a place where someone in the system is enabling it. So that's the truth. So in my language, they say is who they catch that is a thief.
That's a thief.
I don't know.
Some of these things you can't make it up. And, I mean, it'll never cease to surprise you, but I mean, people will be people, and I think that the system should also be the systems that they ought to be, and ensure that these people are caught and punished.
Yes, indeed. We hope that, that something is done to rein in on that rot in the system. But that's not all that we have for you today. That is part of course, the talking points that we expect that you'll be reacting to. We'll also be checking on the challenge of insecurity in the country. A few years back, we had the suicide bombings where the insurgents recruited vulnerable targets to execute their heinous acts, and we're seeing that resurgence in Borno State today. Of course, with the Southeast, which was also a haven of peace in the recent past, now becoming a place where security agents are a target for unknown gunmen. So what are we doing wrong? What should we be doing to ensure that we overcome that challenge? So security gets our attention this morning on the program.
And in talking security, we'll be zooming in directly to the issue in Gwoza in Borno State. Gwoza borders Cameroon and is just next to Bama, and we understand the death toll has actually increased to 22 as at the last count. What exactly is this new rave and heinous crime, as Bukola has said it, where women are now recruited and sent into communities at different events and different locations to get themselves killed as well as others? For what exactly, we may need to find out today on the program.
Mind you, some of them were said to be carrying babies. So it's just shocking and very shocking. But that's not all. We'll bring you a brighter side to things. We'll tell the good stories from Africa. Nigeria is home to a thriving and diverse music industry, but a lot of investment and time and creativity go into that to produce some of those acoustics and lyrics that get you on your feet in the dance hall. So today, we lift the curtain, in some sense, to unveil the brain behind some of those music chart hits. Andre Vibez, as you can see him, may just get us to vibe and maybe finally sign Bukola on the show this morning. By the way, there's a lot of history to this man. And let's see if Bukola, I hope you have your pen and stuff.
Well, maybe first of all we'll go to the recording studio and get one of my tracks on.
Track 2.
What's that thing you guys call it? An EPL.
EP.
EP.
What? Really? Really?
Sorry.
On national television.
Don't go there. EP.
So it's okay. EPL also means English Premier League. So maybe that's why you're mixing it up.
Pardon me.
EP also means enemy of progress, by the way. So you need to be sure. Is it extended play?
Okay, so what's EP music?
Extended
play. So I'll get my extended play out.
But that's not all. You can also be a part of the show online.
Bukola.
Yeah.
So it's the first day of the month.
Help me out, Karadi.
You see that hashtag right there on the screen? That is how you can be a part of the show. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief. I'm sure Bukola is wowing you this morning, and I hope that she's making you smile wherever you are, whatever it is you're going through. But you can also do it on WhatsApp as well. So there you go. That's the WhatsApp number to be a part of the show. Send us your comments, your videos. If you're in Borno State, if you witnessed what's going on, if you have some information, send it in. If you've got videos again about the traffic situation wherever you are, let us be a part of your morning this morning, shall we?
And after the break, I'll be replaying the top stories, not the EP, but top stories, and then we'll get this show started. So stay with us.
You cannot fix this. I will remind you.
All right, here on Channels Television. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So we begin on a rather disturbing note, and in Borno State, to be precise, in Nigeria's northeast, where injured victims of suicide bombings, which left 18 people dead and about 19 others injured in Gwaza town, have been taken to the Borno Specialist Hospital in Maiduguri, the state capital, and are being evacuated to the Accident and Emergency Hospital. This is coming a day after 4 suicide bombers set off improvised explosive devices in Gwaza town. The Director General of SEMA, that's the State Emergency Management Agency, Barkindo Seidu, says that at about 3 p.m. yesterday, the first bomb blast at Tashamararaba near the fire service in Gwaza went off in the midst of a marriage ceremony. This was followed closely by another blast around the General Hospital. A survivor said the first bomber was carrying a baby on her back when she stormed the venue and detonated the IED. Dr. Seidu adds that as people gathered to bury those at the wedding, a third female bomber detonated another IED with a lot of casualties. While emergency officials were in the hospital coordinating the rescue mission, a fourth blast was set off by another female teenager.
The situation in Gwaza now is very tense. As you can see, we brought about 31 victims of this bomb blast. We brought some yesterday. Those are about 12 who are not, they are still on their treatment, who are not yet verified to be well. And they brought that one, but there was a curfew yesterday to this effect. But as of now, I think the situation is very tense because they are just discovering some of the victims affected. Now, as of yesterday, most of these victims were not known to be affected because they thought it was only maybe a few injuries. Then maybe first aid treatments will take care of some of these cases. But as we can see, it is very severe. So we just hope they will get well.
A visibly disturbed secretary of Gwaza local government area there, and just to say that we condole with families and victims and we stand with Borno State at this time. And in a swift reaction, the president has strongly condemned the Gwaza attacks, describing them as desperate acts of terror and a clear manifestation of the pressure mounted against terrorists and the success achieved in degrading their capacity to launch offensives. In a statement issued by the special advisor to the president, Media and Publicity, Ajuri Ngilali, President Bola Tinubu vows that the purveyors of wanton violence will be punished and that these cowardly attacks are only but an isolated episode, as his government will not allow the nation to slither into an era of fear, tears, sorrow and blood. More reactions have been trailing the Gwaza bombing, and the latest coming from the U.S. government. A message on the U.S. Embassy and Consulate in Nigeria says that the U.S. condemns in the strongest possible terms the horrific attacks that took place in Gwaza, Borno State on June the 29th. According to the mission, these reprehensible acts of violence show a cruel and heartless disregard for human life. The U.S. goes on to offer its deepest condolences to the families and friends of those killed and wished a full recovery for those who have been injured, adding that these abhorrent attacks are a stark reminder of the ongoing threat posed by terrorism in the region. The U.S. diplomatic mission in Nigeria says it is committed to its partnership with Nigeria as it works to defeat terrorism and bring the perpetrators of these heinous acts to justice. More reactions still, this time from the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party and former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, who is bothered about the incidents of terrorism resurfacing in Nigeria's northeast. He also condemns the bomb attacks which resulted in the loss of lives and the maiming of other citizens in Gwaza local government area of Borno State. In a statement issued on Sunday on his X handle, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar said the suicide attacks in Borno are sad and condemnable, stressing that the ugly incidents are worrisome. And staying with security matters now, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, is again asking Nigerians to team up with the Nigerian Army and other security agencies in their quest to combat terrorists and all enemies of the Nigerian state. Speaking in Abuja at a special Thanksgiving service to commemorate the 2024 Nigerian Army Day celebration, General Lagbaja says the Army will continue to live up to the expectations of Nigerians to defend the nation's territorial integrity. General Lagbaja, however, applauds the support of the federal government and other security agencies in tackling all forms of security threats being experienced in the country.
In about 161 years, the Nigerian Army has experienced war, low-intensity conflicts, armed military operations other than war, such as peacekeeping, peace enforcement, armed military aid through civil authority engagements. Nigeria today boasts of a force that is globally reckoned with, a force renowned for its tenacity and adaptability, a force that is victory-focused, understands the underlying spiritual component of the fighting power, and ascribes battle successes to God, as conspicuously captured by its motto, "Victory is from God alone." I believe it is in recognition of the place of thankfulness to God for the past year and the need to seek divine guidance and blessings for a new year that our forefathers initiated the Nasser religious activities aside from other celebration programs.
More on security now, as the Kaduna State Police Command says it has arrested a total of 1,128 suspects for various offenses ranging from banditry, kidnappings, armed robbery, and other related offenses in various parts of the state within the last 2 months. The State Commissioner of Police, Ali Dabigi, who paraded the suspects at the command's headquarters in Kaduna, also announced the arrest of the spiritual leader of the late notorious bandit Boderi Ishaku and others during a raid at his shrine in Kidandang Forest of Igabi local government area of Kaduna State. A 25-year-old woman, Aisha Abubakar, who was caught in possession of 550 rounds of AK-47 ammunition while she was in transit to delivering the ammunition to bandits from Nasarawa State, was equally paraded. And just before we exit security, call it the bizarre and call it strange, and you may not be wrong. The Edo State Police Command is advising parents and guardians to pay adequate attention to their children and wards in order to keep them safe from becoming perpetrators or victims of crime. And this is from the police commissioner in the state, who says this became more necessary after his team of operatives arrested a 19-year-old girl allegedly involved in the kidnap of an elderly pastor in a community near Benin City, the Edo State capital.
She was crying that she needed the help of the pastor, that they should please open the door for, that she's the wife of one of the church members. That's the lie. That's what she told, the story she sold to the pastor. So as soon as the pastor opened the gate, the door for her, all the members of the kidnapping group, they hijacked the man at gunpoint and they took the man away. Members of the public, let's watch our children, our wards, monitor what they do, the kind of friendship they keep, because she saw this one giving a gun to her own boyfriend. It was the boyfriend who, according to her, lured her into this criminal activity, kidnapping. It's quite unfortunate, a 19-year-old girl. So people should be careful.
And outside our shores, latest results from exit polls in France's snap elections suggest that the country's far-right National Rally RN has made big gains in the first round of the polls count. Celebrating her party's early success, Marine Le Pen says democracy has spoken as she declares President Emmanuel Macron's camp practically wiped out. And for his part, Macron is calling for a broad alliance against RN ahead of next week's second round. His prime minister has warned that the far right is at the gates of power, saying where candidates from his camp came third, they should not stand in next week's round. And sports news now, it was a great escape for England on Sunday as they were able to book their place in the quarterfinals thanks to Jude Bellingham, who produced a moment of genius to keep England in Euro 2024 and help them survive a huge scare to beat Slovakia in dramatic fashion. England were seconds away from an embarrassing exit in Gelsenkirchen as Slovakia defended a lead they had held since the 25th minute when Ivan Shranz raced into the box to poke a low finish past England keeper Jordan Pickford. It was then that Bellingham, who celebrated his 21st birthday on Saturday, demonstrated the brilliance that has made him England's new superstar by going airborne in the penalty area to send Mark Guehi's headed flick past Martin Dubravka with a stunning overhead kick. Bellingham rescued England from a performance that plumbed such depths that his goal was their first effort on target, but then set the platform for victory as Slovakia, which had defended so stubbornly, were left stunned. And we hope that England continues to stun in subsequent games, but that's not all. There's more that you've been talking about, from the happenings of the last 24 hours and more. And joining me now for a review is Coyote. Hello again, Coyote.
Obviously, Bukola, you've picked a side in the ongoing Euros, and I think it's England.
Well, whoever defeats
like
England again, I'll switch allegiance.
Is that football promiscuity? But let's take a look at what is trending this morning, what you're speaking about. That's just on a lighter note for football fans, clearly. But the big one here in Nigeria, Bukola, as you said, is the suicide bombings that we saw over the weekend. Something that we thought we had gone way past in this country. But sadly, it happened, and a lot of people have been reacting to that because it came as a shocker, really. You have the emir in the area saying 30 people killed, some other figures saying over 20, officials still saying at least 18 people killed. But this is what you're saying about that, or those suicide attacks. It's important to mention it wasn't just one, not two, 4 different locations. The first user we're taking on this one is Nigeria Pekin. User is Joseph Iyali, says, and it's a question really. This terrorism, has it come to stay or there's an end to it? I think you're taking that question out of the minds of all Nigerians, really. Goes on to say, a very unfortunate, precarious situation we found ourselves. And yet another question is, how did we get here?
Question is, were we caught napping? As it usually is when it comes to matters of insecurity and, other subject matters. This one is coming from Patu, who says, terrorism is bad in all ramifications. Imagine involving a baby in this kind of heinous act. May we never go back to the era of suicide bombers, or is it already upon us yet again?
You have to really look critically. Suicide bombing is very rare and it speaks to very deep issues. For a lot of the suicide bombers, they promise them martyrdom, tell them that what you're doing is good. So they've made death look good. They made it look like something you should celebrate, but particularly going out in such manner and taking lives with it. So we need to talk about that. Is martyrdom being glorified in that area? What is the social situation there in terms of poverty, even the psychological situation and all? But the next user is Rule of Law NG, saying Nigerians are asking if we're back to the beginning with suicide bombings. My question is whether the Nigerian government has done anything to stop suicide bombings or the insurgency in general. Goes on to say the Nigerian government did what it always does, respond with force, which misses the mark.
And to pick up on your posers, Kadi, if suicide bombing is being glorified as some sort of martyrdom that will be rewarded in the life after, why do it with a baby? Will a baby also get some form of reward? The baby hasn't had a chance at life, to fulfill their dreams and aspirations. Why cut short the life of an individual? And, to think of it, it takes more courage, to die in a certain way than to, take on life's challenges.
I think it just speaks to the depth of the radicalization, and I think it's something that the government needs to go deeper into. I know there's been a lot of work really from the military and other security agencies, but obviously this thing is thriving again. From other reports, we understand that some of them were even arrested and said that there's way more people being groomed for this. So clearly it is deeper than this. Maybe they told them if you do this with a baby, there will be more reward. It's just warped. But that is what radicalization is. That is what all of those...
and you know what? Where is their recruiting ground?
Well, let's see what the next user has to say. Very, very important question, really, that you asked, Bukola. And it's from Haruna, saying it's going to be good if federal, state, and local governments can come up with programs that will reduce the hardship in the land. Otherwise, with the present situation, criminals can easily recruit more members to cause more trouble in the land. It will even shock you, Bukola, that there's even online recruitment.
Online.
Some of these insurgents target users online, look for people that have traits of depression, people that have low self-esteem. I mean, these things are really targeted, and there's a huge network of it. So multidimensional, and we have to do this together. Like
poverty, right? Let's go to the next talking point, I believe, and this time around, this is about the consequences yet again of our socio-economic challenges. 103 Nigerians deported from Turkey arrive Abuja airport, and the first reaction is from Omoya Teacher, I believe, and they say if Nigeria works for all and sundry, it will be optional for any Nigerians to seek greener pastures abroad, not to talk of being deported from a country like Turkey. So that this expression, is always, a country like Turkey.
It's always a very debatable issue, really. And I remember asking people why they're staying back in Nigeria, and people had lots of reasons, but it's always an option. You can either choose to stay or to go. Now, whether or not you're happy staying or your money is not complete is another thing entirely. But take a look at what this next user has to say. Kena Oke says, this isn't the end of the world for them. And I think that's a very good one. It's just a chapter in their story. Deportation isn't as bad as people make it seem. Okay, I'm just going to leave it there. That's what this user has to say.
Well, this one is from Dockwith Affidavit, who says, meanwhile, some of them have nothing to fall back to after wasting forex, selling all they have before leaving. All is well. All will be well. But we must continue also to do the right things to keep these people at home in the first place.
And it speaks to the situation. But next one is maybe something government is trying to do to ameliorate the situation for Nigerians. And it's the last week's statement that the president has ordered the immediate rollout of a package, an economic and reconstruction package. And right in that package is a disbursement, or at least 155 billion naira budgeted for the purchase and sale of assorted foodstuff nationwide. So Abe_Co says the distribution should be done by ward councillors at the grassroots, targeting the over 70s, pregnant women, physically challenged, that's people living with disabilities, people affected by chronic illnesses, and the unemployed.
Well, and that's so much we can take on a review of some of what you're saying. But of course, the conversation continues this time around as we kick off our first segment. We'll be talking about the challenge of insecurity. Are we witnessing a resurgence of suicide bombings, Boko Haram insurgency in Nigeria's northeast? We hope to capture all of the questions agitating your minds. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We now talk security. Over 20 people, about 21, have so far died following that suicide bombing that occurred in Gwoza local government area of Borno State. Suicide bombers, all of them female. We even understand that some are even carrying babies, detonating IEDs, killing themselves, as well as people around them. What is responsible for this resurgence? That's the question we have on our mind, and the experts are here to provide us perspective as to what could possibly be the answer and the reason. We're being joined in the program via Zoom by retired Army General, Major General Cecil Sekaigbe. He joins us via Zoom, as well as Security and Defense Consultant, who joins us via Zoom as well from Borno State, Ms. Onyekachi Adekoya. General and Ms. Adekoya, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
All right, General, let me start with you because clearly this is a very sad situation, and we're trying to wrap our heads around this to find out what exactly is going on. Let me get some of the perspective of the president. It says it is a clear manifestation of the pressure mounted against terrorists and the success achieved in degrading their capacity to launch offensive. He calls it an isolated case that will be dealt with. That is the president's characterization of what we saw in Gwoza that borders Cameroon on Saturday. How would you characterize what is happening with this situation?
Well, it's very unfortunate and sad, but you must understand the reason for suicide bombing. One of the principal concepts of suicide bombing is to maybe instill fear out of political effect and also as a matter of grievances. So isolated, but we have to watch the trend and the pattern it will take. Because suicide bombing is a clear message of showing dissension and showing, a kind of, ill feelings towards the government and maybe also as a way of revenge for an action that has taken place. So the characterization is key, and what happens after characterization is how do we track it and how do we arrest the ugly situation.
Let me come to you, Ms. Adekoya. You may also help us characterize this as much as possible, but in adding to how you describe the situation, they sat down, they planned. They recruited these women. They tied these IEDs around them, sent them into the community. They detonated a few of them, about 4 of them. People died. So for them, it's success. How did we miss all of this?
Yeah, so we are looking at a number of social issues, and the characterization you have just made doesn't seem to suggest that this is anything new. As a matter of fact, it is known that a certain Bakura section of JAS has significant number of dedicated, as it were, suicide bombers, and who enjoy some professional treatment within their own sect. There's ideology, there's some bending of religion, some under the influence of hard drugs, and some other considerations they also have. So these are some social issues around these issues that we see. If you ask how did we miss them in particular, I mean, everybody has recorded that the last time we had a body-borne IED was at least way back as 2020. As a matter of fact, if you look at the statistics from 2023 to date, we've had about 173 cases of IEDs going off. Just a fraction of about 20% being vehicle-borne IEDs. The main IEDs that we experience in the Northeast are IEDs planted by major MSRs that have claimed a significant number of lives. I think this year alone, we've lost soldiers about 105, 106 to IEDs, roadside IEDs, about 22 to vehicle-borne IEDs. As to how we missed it, it's no fault of law enforcement or the army, as it were. We understand that from this particular case, the operatives may have come from the Mandara Mountains that borders that particular area. So it's not a case of how did we miss it. The MO is changing a bit. Somebody did note that there's been a record number of arrests of female support personnel to some of these armed bandits terrorists and the rest. So it's a whole lot of social issues around the problem, principally one of ideology, okay, and then some other interests that these operatives have. So as to why we miss it, there are those issues that make it a bit difficult. There's the terrain, there are issues of terrain that makes it difficult for an attacking formation to approach some of those places successfully and conduct whatever operations they want to conduct. And then there's religion, of course, those other macroeconomic instabilities going on that reinforce some of these problems that we have in the Northeast. So it's a difficult one. This does not in any way besmirch the good work that the Army has done in the last 3-4 years, really. As a matter of fact, the problem that the Borno state government is now having is that a lot of communities are now going back to their farmlands. And so the government is having a bit of difficulty even trying to keep up because of the relative peace and progress in what the Army has been able to do. So I don't think it's a clear one of, say, who missed what and when. Some of these challenges do occur, as the general has said, is to pick up the pieces to say, okay, what did we miss in this particular instance? I think what I think was missing in this case was a case of a bit of complacency in understanding again the double tap strategy. When the first IED went off, the next natural thing for people to do is to rush to the aid of fellow citizens who are in distress, and thereby giving the would-be attackers another opportunity for mass casualty, which is why perhaps this number has also risen. So I think some complacency may have set in either two peaceful communities. So I think we'll take the incident from here and see what lessons can be drawn. You know, so it's not about who missed what, if you ask me.
I'd just like to quickly follow up on that. I'm glad that you touched on how, the explosion of IEDs planted in some communities, led to the loss of security operatives. I recall civilian JTF died sometime in an IED explosion in May. And after that, we've also recorded the death of some security operatives. But in addition to that, the state governor had also been, advocating that we must not relax on the fight against insurgency. So to that extent, shouldn't there have been a follow-up on the possibility of the presence or the return of insurgents, particularly in that part of the Northeast, such that events like the one recorded on June the 29th could have been avoided?
It's a very good question you raise, and sometimes, the public is also not aware of all that the military is doing. At the risk of sounding like the military spokesperson today, I would state the facts as it is. There's been an initiative by the Army to support the efforts of the Borno state government in helping farmers return to their farmland. In this particular instance, it may not be unconnected to some GSF clearance operation. I think the Army launched a Operation Mountain Sanity, an operation like that, to clear that particular area and also give farmers the opportunity to return to their farmlands and support our food security drive. What may have happened may also be a retaliation against what these armed groups would perceive as an excessive support on part of the civilian population of the Army, because some of these operations was also, there were elements, hybrid elements of the CJTF, different Army formations that moved to clear that particular area. The level of success of that operation or the objective set by the Nigerian Army may not be out there for public consumption, but some of those operations has happened. There's also a risk of a blowback of GSF operation, clearance operations in particular. Sometimes there may be civilian casualties. Sometimes there may be retaliatory attacks, as we had possibly in this case. So it's not to say that, that's why I said, we just say what we know. Some of those actions are happening. Perhaps this is a bit of a blowback from what we know has taken place recently.
All right, let me come to general now. There are a number of things really that are playing out here, and maybe we'll try to break them down to understand. So there's the recruitment, the radicalization, and all of that. That's by the insurgents. But on the security side is intelligence gathering, vigilance, and the rest. You are all too aware about the operations and the peculiarity of the terrain. So speak to us about intelligence gathering. Is it tough to gather intelligence, to get charter such that you know that, oh, a group of 30 girls are being housed in a certain area, being radicalized for possible suicide bombing, and then strategize either to swoop in on them or at least to be vigilant such that you know when there's movement around and you are able to prepare well?
Well, intelligence gathering is a process in the sense that when you start, it has a value chain which you must have to maintain. Like my colleague said, the truth is that sometimes we exaggerate our failures and mishaps and downplay, our successes in that regard. Intelligence is an ongoing process. If there's a missing link in the chain, then all you need to do is to reboot, you reset, and come back so that it will give you the desired end. What you do, like this, my colleague said about this suicide bombing. Suicide bombing, you must understand the root cause of what led to this series of suicide bombing. And don't forget, like he said, there have been series of successes recorded by the military. And this is enough to send a message as, oh, you are degrading our people. So the next is to express our grievances to say, okay, we don't like what you are doing to our people and all that. So intelligence gathering must be robust, and I think the intelligence agencies are doing well. One good thing this administration has done is what they call interagency cooperation. They have done very well in interagency cooperation. I see the various services, intelligence and military organizations are doing well in this regard. So when you have this element of interagency cooperation, you are able to have an effective intelligence gathering. First of all, it's a process, like I said, you gather information, you process the information until you get the, intelligence. And not just intelligence, they call it just-in-time intelligence, so that you'll be able to serve the purpose of which it's meant for. It's a very Herculean task, and I want us to understand that Nigerian military are doing well. But let me point one very significant factor here about insurgency and terrorism. Relying on military isolation alone will not take us to our desired. You see, they must have what they call a blend of the kinetic and not kinetic approaches. And that's what they call in the US government smart power. Now that the military has been able to achieve very, very outstanding results in this counter-insurgency and counter-terrorism, there must be this element of, the governor, there must be proper governance in all these areas that have been liberated. If you leave them open the way they are, there's a need, for regrouping by the insurgents and the terrorists. Another thing you must also have to look at is, for instance, if people are hungry, if people are disillusioned, they become, easy prey for recruitment. Especially now that you have this electronic recruitment of terrorists and, suicide bombers. So you have to blend the military approach to new non-military approach, which encompasses military, economic, social, and other factors you must consider. So it's not difficult to get intelligence. It's not difficult to gather intelligence, but it's a process. And that process, has to be accentuated by a lot of factors. For instance, intelligence now must be driven by technology. Any intelligence that you want to gather without appropriate technology will not give you the result you get in modern challenges. So it's all combination of factors which you must consider, so that at the end of the day, the government is trying, buying equipment, military equipment, motivating the troops, but we have to employ technology in this intelligence gathering. Like I said, interagency cooperation is the result. and the government need to upend the activities of, these people that are gathering intelligence and all that. Now, for this matter in question, don't forget that suicide bombing takes place with a lot of surprise. And the people that carry them are unsuspected elements, like a woman carrying a baby on her back, So this is where the real intelligence comes in now, from a very, pedestal level to the highest level. So it's a robust approach, and it has to be guided as such.
And I think it's something worth reiterating, that security operatives do not work in isolation. In fact, they thrive when the people support them with intelligence and the rest. But then that is built on trust, which is another conversation maybe for another day. But let me come to Mr. Adekoya now. So we've talked about the intelligence gathering, the vigilance part, but I want to switch it and talk about the recruitment angle yet again, because it's mind-boggling. And you imagine for a lot of people who stay in urban areas and they wonder, how is it easy for someone to be recruited and told, you know what, strap this on your body, detonate it, you'll die, the baby you're carried will die, other people will die, but it's a good thing. And I know that we've seen strings of abductions, what have you. The one reported in March in Borno State, I think that was in Gamborungala, which is, by the way, about 2 local governments away from Goza. And we've seen those things. So how is it easy or possible for these insurgents, radicalists, whatever term it is, terrorists, to gather them in an area and give them those lessons time and again, and such that they've been able to beef them up to that point where they are ready to go out there and do such damage? Let me come to you, General, again, and this is that question, straight and simple. General Sekaibe, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Yes, one significant area we're going to look at is what they call the radicalization and reintegration of, the people that have said they have repented into the society. I see a missing link in that process because it has to be deliberate. And 2, you have to do it with deep intelligence. Number 3, there has to be sincerity of purpose. The way you de-radicalize this set of people that say they have surrendered, and the way they are integrated into society, is an apocalyptic, experience. Because how do you now really resettle them? How do you gauge the level of de-radicalization? I see a missing link here because it becomes an easy tool for recruitment when it's not done with sincerity of purpose. So this de-radicalization process and the way they are integrated into the society calls for proper interrogation. So for me, this is, easy way of recruiting these people who are not sincere into the system to cause this mayhem. For example, you have to look at the purpose. There must be a purpose for an action. Like you rightly said, if somebody is tying a baby and he knows that he's going to die from a process, why is he doing it? So this calls for all our religious groups to play a prominent role in this de-radicalization process. It's not a one-size-fits-all. You gather a group of people somewhere for a couple of months and say they have been de-radicalized, and you reintegrate them into the society. It's a time bomb. And I think we have to check and interrogate that process so that they don't become a breeding ground of subsequent regrouping.
All right, Mr. Adekoya, let's come back to you. We can see that gender bias, enables this ease of movement. Because they are women, people may not really look at them twice. The target is the citizen. So let's take it back to the citizen before the army or intelligence agencies or anyone who can help comes through. How can they safeguard themselves? Because right now, I guess, I want to presume that people are looking at women differently in Goza just because of this situation. The secretary talked about it, that it's a tense situation, so that people are not profiled wrongly, as well as mistaking someone for something else. What should be the response of citizens in that area?
Yeah, to your first question on how people get radicalized, let's not forget that in the U.S., there's a case of a certain pastor that told the congregants that they were going to go to heaven if they committed mass suicide. So issues of religion being opiumic is not restricted to one sect or religion. It's just a social phenomenon, and because of the role that religion plays in our basic everyday life. So I would not say that the reintegration effort, the de-radicalization reintegration effort has not yielded results. I've talked several times on national TV about building a golden bridge. If it will cost us 25 billion to prosecute a head-on war, and it will cost us, say, 3 billion to take a golden bridge, reintegrate, reset, to do it properly, I think I'll go for the one that consumes less life. So reintegration has yielded some good results. You have the CJTF, you have some of the hybrid approach that is now being deployed, yielding results. There are some issues, but they'll deal with it. In terms of profiling, profiling is a basic security function. So what, again, this incident will have done is to enable the army update its ammo and its own ammo on how it profiles and assess, what would be a credible target. There are some actions that would give off some of these attackers. So I don't think that we have much of a problem with profiling, or that this one is then destabilizing society completely, because some of these people under distress also show some signs. If you look at the fourth incident that occurred, eagle-eyed operative had noted some suspicious thing about the would-be attacker, and then they engaged, and then the IED blew off, at least at a safe distance. So it doesn't change much really for trained operatives. I just think we just adjust a bit and we go forward.
Excuse me. Mr. Adekoya, I'm talking about citizens, not intelligence agencies.
Yes, I mean, you'll be amazed at the resilience of the people in these communities in how they deal and address with themselves. I mean, these are people who have lived through the heat and the heights of this crisis. One or two incidents doesn't change anything. All it just does, it will raise the level of alertness of the people. You can understand that it's human nature for life to go on. So people have decided to move on despite the crisis. And that comes with some level of complacency, that comes with some level of assumption of normalcy. And so what it just does, it doesn't change the way people see women. I don't think that will happen. Because even the locals themselves know, the locals have the information that, for example, we're not saying because ISWAP has not claimed this, ISWAP would typically not claim this because of their political leaning and the effects and impacts on civilian populace. There's a suggestion to say maybe the Bakura-led faction of Jazz is responsible for this, and that particular set is known to have a dedicated number of suicide bombers. That's known within the local populace. It doesn't change anything at all. It doesn't make people profile them socially, women in any particular way. The people understand that these are victims of circumstance, okay? And I don't see that changing anything, as it were.
Let's also look critically at this de-radicalization program. Now, this one specifically carried out by the Borno state government. We recall that in February, they had announced that 160,000 repentant Boko Haram recruits would not go back because they had sworn by the Quran. But now we're seeing this. And Mr. Adekoya, this is for you. I wonder if you have any ideas about their recruitment ground. And if we had 160,000 repentant Boko Haram members being reintegrated into the community, don't we have a bigger problem on our hands in the coming days if this leaves a huge question mark on that process?
Yeah, okay, good question. I would say also I suspect that the media may be fueling some level of, permit the word, a bit of hysteria, but it's good to be concerned. I think we're whipping this matter up beyond what it is. I'm in Maiduguri currently, and I've told you several times that I sleep even better in Maiduguri than in Abuja. It's still like that. Unfortunately, these things happen. Let me talk about the deregularization and the drawing down on numbers. It has significantly degraded the fighting capability of Boko Haram. that drawdown alone significantly. What you have and what we see from that drawdown was that some members moved over to ISWAP, left Boko Haram, but still they don't have and they do not pose a significant destabilizing force to Borno State, not even the Nigerian state as it were. Granted that we drew down on the number of divisions in the Northeast theater because of the problems within the Northwest. And it's also sensible because the numbers have been degraded. They are now hold up to opportunistic attack. It doesn't mean that a crisis is occurring. Their numbers have not swollen up immediately overnight, and it won't swell because of this incident. What they are doing now is to register presence or register some dissent against what is happening to them and what they perceive is support by the local population against them. So you can already see that local sentiment is already being mobilized against these people. What I think that the Nigerian government fails to appreciate fully is that in warfare, there are domains of warfare, and the information space is a critical domain that the government must play in. There is also a place for positive propaganda. And that's why sometimes I wonder what the National Orientation Agency is doing, and even propaganda tailored from the defense industry itself to weaponize the people against these insurgents. They are Islamic clerics, they are thought leaders, community leaders. You know, we can keep doing what is working. There may be some throws of a dying horse, some kicks of a dying horse as we see. Doesn't mean that overnight that there is a problem. Well, so I can tell you for a fact, I'm here on ground. Again, I just want to be factual. This is just an unfortunate incident. Shouldn't discredit the good work of the Nigerian army in any way.
Well, and I'm shocked that you're saying the media is fueling hysteria. People have died. That is a fact, Mr. Adekoya, and you are aware of that. So reporting this and taking a look at what is going on is just the work we're doing to report the issues. I mean, the death toll by the emir is even said to be as much as 30. So we'll do our work. We'll report what is going on, ensure the Nigerians are well informed. By no means to fuel hysteria, but to keep Nigerians informed about what's going on there. And I imagine that's what you meant to say. But let me come to General, because I understand he has to run now. General, the PDP presidential candidate talked about the way the Tinubu government is handling insecurity generally, and he's of the opinion that, well, the posturing of this government is what is causing this. So let's sort of segment or put the responsibilities in segments. So what do you expect the Tinubu government to do as by way of a response?
Well, I do not know who that presidential candidate is, but I know that as a Nigerian,
that's Atiku Abubakar. That's a PDP presidential candidate.
This country, you know, trying to pre-referencing what the new government is doing. Like I said at the beginning, this government has shown resolve. They have not come with technical definitions of, victories or defeat in this insurgency and terrorism. So the appropriate thing to do is to reset, the military hierarchy and the security agencies, which they have done. Now they have to equip the military and boost the morale of troops, which they are doing. And three, don't forget that terrorism and insurgency are a protracted, crisis. Low-intensity conflict as is described. So it is not a go to the shelf to purchase. You have to work assiduously and continue to take them step by step. We should all come together as Nigerians and define, the problem before us and look for appropriate solutions to addressing those problems. To sit armchair criticism will not help us. The Nigerians that are dying have no peculiar coloration. Politically, they are Nigerians, and that spirit of that we're Nigerians, comes before any kind of political innuendos or some kind of criticism of the sitting government. So we should all encourage the sitting government, to do more, and don't forget that whatever successes are achieved in operations are also a function of the cooperation with the civilian populace. So if we start to sing discordant tunes, as political leaders, it serves as a diversionary method and a kind of, will have a counter effect on how we proceed, these operations. So the government has seized the initiative. Usually those days we used to hear of technically degraded Boko Haram and some of those stuff. But if the government has known and identified the problem, that is halfway solving it. So let us all put hands together to encourage the government and not do unnecessary criticisms that will just be a source of distraction. They need to do more, but they need to be encouraged to do more. We need to bring to the government, some of these areas that we think they should do more, and we should do it, with clear conscience, with a sense of altruism, rather than a kind of a distraction that may arise.
Major General Cecil Sekaegbe, retired Army General, almost. Thank you so much for coming on the program and providing your own perspective to this particular issue. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Mr. Adekoya, you're still with us. So let's talk about going forward. The reason I use the word going forward is quite deliberate, because sometimes this thing starts and then before you know, it escalates beyond that particular geographical location. And then we'll begin to say, oh, we didn't nip it in the bud at the early part. So what exactly has to be done in going forward to ensure that this doesn't just happen again as much as possible? I know it's almost impossible for insecurity not to take place, but to the point where we're in this situation where everybody's on high alert.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Which is why initially I had highlighted post-event, what should happen post-event. Now, communication and narrative management is very important to wit that we do not give the terrorists the oxygen they need or require for further actions. I give you two case in points. There was the Moscow bombing at the mall, Kronos Mall. You had the terrorist attack in Dagestan, and you can see how the Russians quickly rallied around their government to say the terrorists would not divide us, they would not exploit the religious divide within society to further perpetrate their crime. Crime is crime, and it will be called.
Like before, we just.
You can go ahead, Mr. Adekoya.
So, I mean, I think this becomes an all of society problem. So we must, as a people, seize initiative from these terrorists, reduce the oxygen that we give to their heinous activity, at least manage it, ensure some positive propaganda. All of society, the NSA must look at doing some of that. That's on the soft side. On the hard side, I've just read out stats from open source intelligence. We have lost to IEDs about 106 soldiers this year alone. 122 of them have been injured, significantly injured this year alone. About 22 of them have been killed by vehicle-borne IEDs in the Northeast this year alone. About 77 of them have also been injured by vehicle-borne IEDs this year, and 6 killed by body-borne IEDs this year. These are Nigerians, these are fathers, these are uncles, these are breadwinners of their family. Their lives also matter. What I think that the government has to do is to resource the military correctly. But the government suffers some handicap, and this is where international diplomacy and politics must be sensible. We cannot be looking for weapons from those who consider us as strategic opposition to them within the sub-Saharan African space. Nigeria must have a defense industry that is able to cater to the needs of its military and to support the projection of national interest and national power going forward. Because the problem here is an equipment problem. If you did listen to me carefully, there was an operation Mountain Sanity deployed by the Nigerian Army. We have that from good authority from the locals. There was a clear period of aerial bombardment, but as Afghanistan, as the Mandara Mountains region, you can drop aerial bombs all you care if you are not hitting hard points and destabilizing the positions, the fighting positions of the assailant. You are not achieving much. After the aerial bombardment, we understand that the military did moving, but the topography of the place, it stacks up against an attacking force, giving the entrenched elements there some advantage. So I wasn't sure. We're not sure about the objectives set by the military, but some action is going on. For example, we are now in a domain of warfare where consistent and persistent ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, is the main speak now in modern day warfare. Reconnaissance attacks are also another way to go. So if we've not given the military what they need to do their job, we are not giving them a fighting chance, which is why I keep complaining about the attrition of our forces. And attrition is a big problem. Imagine 200 and something plus soldiers decommissioned. Basically, they have been taken out of action. What does that do? In a country where the PSC and the IGP are bickering over employment of police constables, 10,000 we're supposed to get by now. If the military clears up a place, the police should move on and hold ground. The police has a counter-terrorism unit that can support the actions of the military near the front lines. We don't have the police now because there's bickering between the PSC and the IG. Indeed. The same Nigeria is happening to the Navy, to the Air Force, and to the Army. Recruitment is not anywhere where it should be. So I think that on the one hand, we are almost tying the hands of our military personnel behind their backs, asking them to fight. If we do not give them the tools that they need and the personnel that they need, and if we don't shape correctly as a country, yes, go ahead.
Besides the structural issues, you know, that lack of synergy is also another systemic issue. We cannot exhaust, you know, the discussion as far as the Northeast is concerned. Let's go to the Southeast now, where we see that security operatives are increasingly becoming targets, and time and again, IPOB has distanced itself from the killings in the Southeast. You know, but when that was the case, sometime a few years ago, there were cases where they attributed the killings to, you know, politicians taking advantage of the situation. But now we're not in an electioneering season. So I wonder, you know, what you identify to be the continuing cause of the problem, fueling the challenge, where security operatives are still targets for this phenomenon of unknown gunmen.
Thank you for raising the important question again. Proverbially, if the cat goes to play, then the rat takes over the proverbial house, as a matter of speaking. The security forces that we have currently are not able to fully dominate the space, you know, and to command presence to which that they can be more proactive. There are a number of structural issues. Then there are also the social issues, the sentiments for Biafra, sentiments, beliefs, like I said, like opioids of some sort. There are some elements within society that seem to suggest that these actors have cause and support them. But there's good news. The Southeast has been ravaged for long by these issues. We have seen communities rise up against some of these elements. We've seen sentiments mobilized against some of these elements. Because for how long can this continue? We've seen, so there are telltale signs that we are now in the end state of this current action. That said, there will still be rooms for crime opportunity to occur. Remember that when you have different actors or threat actors as we call them, they have their own objectives, they have their own interests, and they will pursue those interests and objectives in ways and manners as they seem fit. What we now need to do is to have the structures, the capabilities in place to deal decisively with those issues. But again, we circle back to the issue of national orientation. When we took out history from the curriculum, we de-emphasized social studies. What we basically subjected ourselves is to a society where, the fabric that whole society had become somewhat loosened and disintegrated, such that our value system has changed. I think that, again, the government must, as a way of national programming or social reengineering, take the issue of social studies, civic duties, civic responsibilities very, very seriously, howbeit we must start now going back, the primary schools, secondary schools, to reorientate the people on who we are as Nigerians and what we stand for and what are our values. Because as it were, there's too much opportunity within society for you to find willing hands for this kind of actions. Now, that said, you have in some of these places the unknown gunmen, you have political actors, right. You have court groups, you have the rest. Just to make the point, Howdy, I had raised a point about the president being very quick to make statements on some of these issues. I would rather like to see a situation where the NSA is making statements or the police is making statements, because once the president begins to say, we will do this, we will not tolerate it, he's exerting national political capital on these incidents, which can give grounds for political actors to leverage, because sometimes we play this kind of nonsense politics, forgive my language, in Nigeria, where we politicize insecurity and when some actors deliberately destabilize society to gain some form of leverage. So I think that we need to be careful around messaging in addressing some of these issues. Over to you, Kayode.
Right. Then comes a debate of empathy. The president was not at that Peace and Security Summit in Northwest, the UNDP Peace and Security Summit. His vice went, and you know what followed, the debate. Should the president have been there? Doesn't he care about the Northwest and all of that? So perhaps that's also another reason why you see the president releasing statements, so it won't appear as though the president is aloof and all of that. But you know what, that's just by the way, really. What we need is a peace and security to be a reality. I'd like you to maybe draw some inference, because I realize you've been talking about the splinter group in, in the Northeast, the Bakura, which some have said is a splinter of the Shekau group originally. And, the intricacies, what's playing out, because a lot of people just see suicide bombing, but they don't understand what's playing out behind the scenes. Even in the Southeast as well, where, IPOB says we're not the ones responsible, ASN says we're not the ones responsible, but people still say, well, it looks like IPOB, it's like your modus operandi. So do you understand the interplay of even infighting, perhaps within those groups, and how this may also be affecting the fight?
Okay, so that's a very knotty issue to try to untie, because, there are complex webs already at play. Yes, we know that the Boko Haram Shekau-led faction was at odds with the Al-Bawani-led faction, which is, I think, at the heart of the issue, were issues of succession. Who should succeed Yusuf, either succession by bloodline or, so at the heart of that issue is just a Shiite ideological preference for succession by bloodline. Even going back to the case of the son of the prophet, peace be upon him, the first known martyr. So there are issues of ideology, as it were, so these are neither here nor there in terms of the current infighting between Jazz and ISWAP. Okay, so that's there. So when they fight,
for those who don't understand what Jazz is,
out themselves.
For those who don't know what Jazz is, so we can break it down. What's Jazz in this sense?
Is Jamaatu al-Islam. They have that's Boko Haram.
Right.
That's what they call it.
Which is different from ISWAP.
Yes, so ISWAP is ISIS in the West African province.
Right. Please go ahead. Just to help people understand.
Yes, so my apologies. Yeah, so when they infight amongst themselves, they help us. It was the infighting that helped the Nigerian army and Nigerian people to take out Shekau, following which Boko Haram became significantly degraded. And the infighting between these two groups are also helping us to win, that they're also taking out themselves, making the job easy for the Nigerian army. So you see, even you really look at conditions on the ground, conditions on the ground would rather suggest that because of that division, the split, the schism between the two groups, they will continue to cancel each other out, aiding us. So they don't have the fighting force to hold ground and hold territory. They are insurgent groups. They are trained and adept in guerrilla warfare. The ISWAP group in particular, we understand sometimes receive foreign assistance in terms of training for some operations and some weaponry and the rest. But they are all holed up within that Lake Chad axis, holding very, very little operational space. So, I mean, that's to the heart of the issue. But like I said, for this particular instance, we suspect that due to the clearance operation, they attempted, it may be a reconnaissance attack, a probing attack. We're not sure what the objectives of the Nigerian army was at the time, but they did conduct an operation, Operation Mountain Sanity. And some of the objectives were to push out these insurgents from the farming communities, to allow the farmers at least go back to farming, to in a way also improve our own food security and help the people resettle and be comfortable. It is clear that this is a blowback from it. Again, maybe also we say that the effort was not completely successful to fully degrade and decapacitate that group further. It may also be that all the group simply did was to activate cells within the town to conduct this attack to give the government a black eye. That would be my own assessment.
All right, Mr. Adekoya, as far as death is the end of some of this quote-unquote madness, as it's called, it is a problem to all of us. There's an infighting that doesn't help anyone. I'm talking about cultism. Away from terrorism and all of this, let's go to Edo State. Elections will be up in September 16th or so. And I heard the governor clearly say one of the biggest problems he has is the issue of cultism in Edo State. A girl was just buried recently. She was killed and raped and killed and all of that. So besides the big, issues of terrorism, ISWAP, Boko Haram, there is this that doesn't help anyone. And it's common in places, including places like Benin City in Edo State. How should the government begin to go beyond just complaining, to act, to degrade, if that's the right word, the capacity of these gentlemen to take their own lives and harm other people?
Yeah, again, it comes back to the issues of our value system as a society. Every region has its own peculiarity. Edo borders the southwest. As a matter of speaking, we can call Edo part of the southwest, some part of it at least. In the southwest, cult-related activity are the greatest source of risk. Even in places like Ogun and Lagos in particular, and yes, Edo, another place. So to deal with the issue of, and again, it's important to deal with that issue because we are discussing Boko Haram today. Boko Haram started as Ekomok boys. In Adamawa, Yola, we have today the boys called the Sheila boys. I schooled in the southeast at the time when, if you recall, we had Bakassi boys because at the time, some of the people conducting the kidnap and armed attacks, armed violence within the southeast were primarily cultists, cult boys who were used for elections, who got weaponized, and I'm part of the post-1999 cycle of electoral violence, which we're still having to deal with, was that, you had a slush of small and light weapons across the country, which these cult groups will use to rival each other for turf, for political patronage, and the rest. So, again, it's partly politics, partly all of society. Because some of these cult groups have their patrons as people in positions of authority. We can begin to mention them, but that's not even necessary. So they have backing to some extent from within society itself. So I don't think it's not a problem that government cannot sort out because I recall then we had serious issues with cultism in Jos. And government was very clear. If you say cultism on campus, easy to deal with because school authorities typically have their way of having their hands on the needed information, and that can be stamped out once the state government is serious. They can stamp out and say zero cultism and mean it and go after these people. Typically, they are known. The issue of cultism are just is not as complex as you have that of armed organized groups, but it is a breeding ground I think the bigger problem is politics and how politicians seek to use these different groups to their own advantage, thereby destabilizing the system further.
Adekoya Almost, thank you so much. Onyekachi Adekoya is a security and defense consultant. Thank you so much for your perspective and for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And just before we get to speak with the Commissioner for Information in Borno State, let's bring you some of the things that you've been saying. Bukola, I think this is from X.
Yes, and the first one is from Godwin N., who says the problem of insecurity in the country is heightened by unemployment, lack of education that enables easy indoctrination. The government should address unemployment and embark on aggressive enlightenment in religious houses. May the soul of the dead rest in peace.
Well,
Amen.
Moses from Lagos on WhatsApp says the involvement of a female bomber, well, female bombers right now, with a baby shows the level of orientation. This is also a reflection of lack of education and economic breakdown. If these bombers were properly schooled, they wouldn't get caught up in such an act. More so, a good economy is one major panacea for insecurity, says these bombers are supposedly promised peanuts. I mean, come to think of that.
Okay, so Bukola, maybe take
yes, indeed, Jeffrey. We're staying with Borno momentarily as we try to get updates on particularly the situation from 2 days ago. We have joining us to help us with that Professor Usman Tar. He's the Commissioner for Information and Internal Security, Borno State. He's also a Professor of Defense and Security, Nigeria Defense Academy, and member of the federal government's think tank on national security. He joins us from our studio in Maiduguri. Professor Tar, good morning and welcome to the program. Can you hear me, Professor Tar? Can you hear me? It appears that we're still trying to get our audio connection through to Professor Tar. But in the meantime, you know, it's a dire situation that we have on our hands. Now, maybe we should just try again and listen and speak and see if Professor Tar will be able to hear us. Professor Tar, good morning. I'll start by asking, and in the hope that through the course of my question, you would get a hang of it.
No, I'm not in the studio. I'm not in the...
It's still... Okay,
well,
it appears as if they're not ready for us yet. You know, but one of the things, my gleanings from our conversation is that religion is one of the issues that we're trying to tackle here, and it appears it's an ideological one. But then again, if insurgents, you know, just to reflect on it, had repented and, you know, been integrated into the society, and in fact the government says that they had sworn by the Quran not to return to insurgency, and we're having, you know, this challenge creeping upon us yet again in Borno State, because an assault on one, even if it's in far away Borno, is an assault on all. It appears then that religion is only a convenient tool when it is profiting, you know, the one that is deploying it to use. And in this case, you know, it is the use of women, vulnerable, the vulnerable gender, carrying babies, you know, to unleash terror on the population.
You know, there's a religion and there's extremism, which is something that we've tried to, you know, differentiate from time to time, and examples have been given in other climes. But I understand that we could just go back to Professor Tar one more time, the Commissioner for Information and Internal Security, Borno State. Professor Tar, let's begin with updates. The death toll. Last count, official figures 18. So what is the current death toll from the string of suicide bombings in Borno State? And what is the security situation right now? Well, not to worry. We'll get you the reaction of the state government, particularly because we need updates right now, know what is going on, what the death toll is and what the government is doing, particularly to ensure this does not happen again. So not to worry, we'll get that for you right here on Channels Television. But we'll go to break now, and when we return, we'll give you something to lighten your mood. Some of the great stories that have come out, not just out of Africa, but Nigeria right here, because there are lots of them. So that's what we'll be turning our attention to right now. In a few seconds, stay with us, don't go anywhere. So let's brighten your mood this morning and bring you the amazing story of a young Nigerian who, by the way, you should know is responsible for some of the songs you've been vibing to as a producer. You know, Calm Down, right? I'm not talking about Calm Down as a term, but the song Calm Down, Rush, and a lot more hit music this man is responsible for. So today we're bringing you the one and only, the phenomenal Alexander Wifo. We all know him as Andrew Vibez, and he's right here with us in our Lagos studio. Andrew Vibez, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you very much.
I want to start with the obvious, but I know that you usually don't talk about it because you just want to be a man of yourself. But you're the son of the legendary Victor Wifo.
Yes.
Amazing. So the apple, or maybe the agbalumo, didn't fall too far from the tree.
At all.
This is something a lot of people do not know. And I know I'm maybe exposing you by starting off on that line. But it is what it is. You're the son of a legendary Victor Wifo. He was your lecturer, by the way, in school. Speak to us first how that feels to come from that great lineage.
I'll just say I feel very fortunate to, have had like a dad like that. Considering what I do right now, I got a lot of influence and inspiration from him too, and he also helped to put me in this path. It wasn't forced, but just growing up around that, music and every other thing that he did, just made me know that I could do this. And then when I also started to show interest, it helped in making me know the right things to do. So. Yeah, I feel very fortunate.
So which of the instruments did you learn from him, or what did you pick? What are the things you picked from him aside from the music?
I played the keyboard, I played the piano.
Right.
I also played the piano in his band for 5 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Living the dream. Or at least you live the dream and still are living the dream.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What about his ability to, compose great tunes? I'm sure you took that from him as well, considering the rich lineup of songs that you have produced.
Of course I did. I grew up watching my dad just create, music that a regular person, even like other musicians, would not create, and I could see how, talented and just mind-blowing, his talent was, and that inspires me even till now. Sometimes when I have creative block or something like that, sometimes I just go back and play his stuff and just listen, and I'm always blown away. First, even if he's my dad, I'm also a fan. Yeah. Yes.
I like that.
Like a lot of us, right?
And you know what Kade said about you wanting to be a man of yourself is quite instructive, because reading about you, we gathered that you were collecting 500 naira, from artists, despite coming from that, illustrious lineage. Talk to us about standing on your own, despite being Victor Wifo's son.
Yeah, so I believe in starting humble and doing I just like to, I believe in creating, your own identity. And my dad, the way we were brought up, we're brought up in a way to always see things from you're here by yourself, even if you have support, it's not going to be there forever. Do you understand? So if you need to know how to take care of yourself, you need to know how to fend for yourself. And my dad wasn't the kind of person to spoil you, or just, if you wanted this, you made a request for this, he would just give it to you. You'd have to work for it. Do you understand? He will make you work for it, or he will just tell you, no, he's not going to give it to you. And you have to find a way. So for me, I just, I already knew, that's what it was. And, I just know, like, I love music. I wanted to make something out of this. And I'm not going to sit down and just wait. I have to, find a way around it. So at the time I was receiving 500 naira. I mean, it's a long time ago, but, I had to start, from somewhere. And you can't charge, a high fee when people don't know, how good you are, or like, how much skill, or like whatever value that you can bring to them. So in fact, a lot of times I did a lot of productions for free. Yeah, so I had to start somewhere, and then it got to a point, I started charging higher, and then it kept going. And
whenever I hear higher, I'm always tempted to ask how high, but I'll leave that to you. I'll leave that to you. So let's get back. I can imagine being the son of Victor Waifo. A lot of expectations on your shoulder. Now we can see Calm Down by Rema, Rush by RS Star. We can see Ladybug's Feeling and all of that with Mavins. Yeah. But were there periods in your life that you felt not good enough?
Not exactly. Not exactly. I've always known, and always recognized the talent and skill I had. There are just moments where I felt like I needed to prove myself. I think especially to my dad, not to any other person. Yeah, so I needed to prove myself. I needed to, because I felt like it was taking too long for me to like show that, like, he recognized I had, this talent. And there were times, I mean, obviously it comes from like a different generation, a different kind of music. So he did not exactly understand, not like he didn't understand, but he just felt maybe he didn't see how far our kind of music would go. And I was just trying to find, ways to make him see that there is something here, and I don't know what it's going to be, but like, I believe so much in this, and I believe that, it's going to take me far. So there were moments in my life where, I felt like I wasn't doing enough. And I had to like put in extra, and even, put in that extra work and trying to do so much more. I still felt like he didn't give me like the, desired results I was looking for. But, I'm glad that even before he passed, he saw something. He saw some things that I was able to achieve.
The great son of the guitar boy, as he calls himself at the end of the day. Yeah. So just a follow-up to that is, so when you were doing songs like Rush and maybe Calm Down, how far did you say it? Because I know that some records, some of these artists were like, I'm not sure this is going to be a hit, because everybody's looking for that song that will blow. Yeah. And sometimes you're really not sure. Were you sure, or it was just one other record you're like, okay, let's put it out and see how it plays out?
The thing is, maybe for me, and I think for a lot of other producers, especially producers, I don't know about artists, but producers, we always kind of know that this song or this beat we're making is going to be a hit. But the thing about making hits is that you have to get the right artist on it, and you have to have the right, push, the right PR promotion and whatever, so, but a lot of the times I make beats, I can hear it. I know that this one is different. This one is going to hit. It's going to, when people hear the beats, it's going to like, they're going to say something, do you understand? So when I made Calm Down beats, I knew there was something special about it. And it probably took me about 6 months before I played it for Rema. I played for one person before Rema, and they kind of like recorded something on it, but it wasn't like, fully, like a full song. And I had to stop it like, somewhere. And I just knew that wasn't the artist. And then when I played it for Rema, immediately he heard it, he loved it. And then we recorded on the spot. And I just knew that, yeah, this one is going to go. The only thing I'll say, I knew it was going to be a big song. I just didn't see how big, globally it would be. But I knew it was going to be a big song.
And you did the remix with Selena Gomez as well. Yeah. Amazing. By the way, congratulations on winning the London Music Awards as ASCAP Song of the Year and top streaming song for Calm Down.
Thank you.
Yet again. You're obviously not calming down on that one. But I'd like you to speak to us about the creative process. And I want to broaden this, really. By the way, on the side, I said you look like Ashake. So, Ashake looks like you. Is that something you hear a lot?
I've heard it a couple of times. So.
Okay, so there you go. I'm sure I'm not the only one thinking that way. So we have a lot of young Nigerians now who want to do music.
Yeah.
Because they've seen the success of Ira Star, they've seen Ashake, they've seen Rema. I'm not even talking about Whiskey, Davido and the rest, but the younger ones in some sense. And it's like everybody wants to do music. Every young person is learning to write music, to produce, and all of that. And I don't know if you feel like, not everybody can do music. You shouldn't. So what's your advice usually to people that come to you, say, I want you to produce that hit like Rush. And in your mind, they're like, I will collect your money, but I know that this thing will not rush. So what is it you advise young people to look out for, to know whether this is your thing, or just go and study psychology or work in a bank or something?
So, I mean, I like to allow people to, explore and try, whatever they want to try. The one thing I would not do is if I feel like you don't have it, I'm not going to try to give you a false hope, right? I know a lot of people meet me and they want me to replicate Rush or Calm Down, and I don't have to do that, because first of all, I don't even put that pressure on myself. I've made Calm Down, and Calm Down is Calm Down. Do you understand? Rush is Rush, feeling is feeling. Whatever, any song I make, once I do it, I'm done. I want to try something else. I want to, and that's the beauty of creativity for me. I'm trying to be creative. I want to be creative. I don't want to have to keep repeating the same thing. I want to make something new, something fresh. And the reason these songs are like, have this, much impact is because they were fresh sounds. They were not the regular, thing that you hear. Even if we're all doing Afrobeats, like you can tell that there's a difference with this. And it wasn't just, Nigerians will listen to it, they will love it, but like you also hear like people from different parts of the world falling in love with this song. So for me, I'll just say, if you're starting out, explore, try new things, never be afraid to try anything, like, because creativity, comes from like different things. Trust me, I get inspiration from the weirdest things. I can hear I can hear a pin drop and it will inspire me, because the way it would drop, the way I'll hear it is not the way you'll hear it. I'll hear it and maybe the pin drops and maybe a car is just passing at the same time. So there's a way, something, I just hear something and then it sparks an idea.
Is created.
Yeah, it sparks an idea and I'm like, I heard that thing, and then, if I'm not near my PC or something, I just pick up my phone and record a voice note, so yeah.
Amazing. So that tells me that, besides the putting together of all of those beautiful sounds, you compose songs of your own as well.
Yes, I do.
So talk to us about the world of the producer. And, this question is coming from a place of seeing the stars from the songs that you produce. We know Ira Star, we know Ladipo, we know those guys, and they take all of the shine. But let's go into the world of the producer. How do you deal with, the challenge of being behind the scene? And then, sometimes issues arise between, the singers and the music producers themselves, where they feel that they're not well compensated. So how do you deal with all of those issues?
Personally, for me, I don't feel any sort of pressure being behind the scenes, because the nature of our work, requires us to be behind the scenes. We spend most of our time in the studio creating and, you know, fine-tuning the songs. You cannot really afford to go out and, you know, spend. I mean, the amount of time you put into your work would show. So as a producer, you have to be in the studio all the time. Nobody forces you to be in the studio. It's just what we enjoy doing, right? For these beats that you hear, sometimes just to get the right kick could take me hours to figure out.
Just that kick?
Yeah, just the right one, the right sound. I have different kick sounds, right? But like, I can play this one and I'm like, it's not there yet. It's like, it's not hitting the way I want to hit. And we'll try different kicks and fine tune and probably play like a bass line. And it sounds nice, but it's not what I'm looking for. I'll have to change it. So you spend so much time just, you know, working this beat, trying to create this beat. And the way it works is like, I can finish this beat and go on to the next beat and go on to the next, because you need to make as many beats as possible, because you're going to meet artists, they're going to come and meet you and say, oh, I want a beat or something, and then you play beats, and I might play this beat for you and it's not what you're looking for. Play another one for me, I'll play another one. So I need to have I don't know, like right now, I have thousands of beats.
So do you get enough credit for your work? Do you believe that producers get enough credit for their work?
I think I do. I mean, I just won this like last week or so, and the numbers speak for itself. You know, I get all my royalties and publishing and everything. I get everything. So I think I'm doing very fine. I'm happy. I think the issue of being recognized as a producer, it all depends on the producer and their team. You need to have a team. You can't do everything yourself. You're in the studio working. You need to at least have like a good management, you know, just have a good team that would help you. If you are the type of person that wants to be out there, that want people to know you, then have a team, you know, have a manager, reach out to like different, you know, media houses, try to, you know, post more, you know, create content. We're in the age where we have like, you know, different platforms, social media platforms like TikTok. You can show yourself working in the studio, you can create content, you can do anything, you know. So I know that a lot of producers are very low-key and reserved and calm. For me, I'm not the kind of person that would pick up my phone. That's the last thing I remember to do. If I'm creating, my phone is, you know, one side, right? So, but there are some people that can do it, you know, while they are creating, they're also, you know, making content and stuff. So it all depends on the person. It's the personality of the producer.
I know you mentioned something about the money in passing, so let's get back to it. Royalties. I wanted to know your payment model.
He likes money, obviously.
Yeah, no, at the end of the day, at this age, you should be talking money, not just passion, because now he has to pay bills. The economy is not smiling. So let's get to that. How do you get the payment? Is your model the same for all of it? One-off payment or royalties, as you mentioned? What exactly do you use as a model?
I don't get one-off payments. I get paid quarterly. So the royalties and everything, like, they come quarterly, and that's like the agreement that we have. I get an advance most of the time. It all depends on what you negotiate with the artist or with the artist management or label. Sometimes you might... So instead of maybe getting an advance, you might do it, you know, create for an artist, and I'm still going to get my royalties at the end of the day. I would always get my royalties. So instead of getting an advance, I can, you know, agree some sort of other agreements, like, okay, you know what, we can do 1-for-1, meaning I'm going to make one song for you, produce it, you put it out, but you're going to give me one song, you know, as a producer. So the day I decide I want to put out a song with this artist, I have a song, I just bring it out from my vault.
So that song you did for him, just go with it.
Go with it. I'm still going to get paid.
Oh, really?
Off it. I'm still going to get royalties off it.
But no advance.
But no advance, do you understand? Okay. And then for me, if I also put out the one, you know, he gave to me, he or she gave to me, he's also going to get paid for it. Like, we're still going to get paid.
It's a win-win situation.
Yeah, it's a win-win situation.
I hope you're not missing this show today. I mean,
I like that model.
You're getting deep into the business of it.
So, getting paid, so whatever you now get paid is determinant on...
Is that how it works for Mavin?
For everybody, that's the standard.
No, not everybody now. Is it the entire industry?
That's the standard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think it speaks to creativity, understanding the business, and thankfully you mentioned Mavin. Don Jazzy, I saw a funny picture online. There was a picture of the band with Don Jazzy's father and the band's father. And people said, oh, they didn't think Don Jazzy had a father. They thought he gave birth to himself in that sense because of the legend status he has. They just think Don Jazzy is that legend. How is it working with him? How did you feel? Because you came to Lagos and, I mean, it looked like nothing was going to happen. You reached out, it didn't get back to you on time until much later. Then COVID happened. But through resilience, you've been able to keep that relationship. So what is it like working with Don Jazzy? Is he all playful? Is he like always serious? Speak to us about that.
He's always goofy. He's a very chill guy. I think his online personality is not so different from, you know, him being offline. He's very chilled. He doesn't like stress. He's open and nice. Yeah, and I have a lot of respect for him, a lot. He gave me, you know, this opportunity, and I just knew that I had to make something out of myself, and I had to make, you know, him proud and make him feel like he didn't make a mistake, giving me the opportunity, right, that I have. And I'm grateful that I've been able to, you know, show that, it wasn't a bad decision to get me, you know, part of Mavin. Don Jazzy is very, very cool. That's all I can say. He's very cool, and if he pays interest to you, trust me, like, a lot of things are going to change in your life. He's the kind of person that if he touches you, your life will change.
Doesn't get angry?
I've not seen him angry. I've not seen him angry.
Okay, so either it's paving the way or it's grading the way.
Yeah.
You know, some people give you that opportunity, give you their wings to fly, and it's good to know. But this revelation about how easy it is, you know, or eventually your royalties get to you, is quite interesting for me. And this is the reason. I want you to speak on this trend that has been with us for a long time, where artists commit to stations playing their songs without any demand on royalty. If there's a structure in place such that you as a producer can get royalties on your song and sing for the singer, how soon are we to exiting that stage where artists, you know, sign that unconditional, you know, contract with stations to have their songs played?
I'm not aware of artists signing like contracts with stations to get their songs played. I just know for me, because I mean, I do my thing, I work. I know there are people who handle taking songs to stations to play, so I don't really know what goes behind, you know, closed doors and whatever agreement they have. But what I know is I have some knowledge of, you know, how it works, especially like abroad, because I've had conversations. I've had to also meet, you know, some top executives over there. I know that, like, for every time, for me, like, and other artists, right? So whatever we get paid, it doesn't just come from like your streaming, you know, or like physical sales or whatever. It also comes from performances, you know, on their performance royalties. You know, you have like when artists even like performing like big stages like the O2 Arena or whatever, you know, there's something that also comes to me. So if you perform a song that I produce, you know, they curate these things, and then
pardon me to cut you short. We can actually keep you here for 2 days. Because apparently I must say that you have a very lovely personality. It's easy to relate with you. Don Jazzy is chilled. You're also chilled as well. Maybe it's as a result of your background. But we'd like to thank you so much. We were hoping you would sign Bukola because she sings quite well. Or maybe you do something for her. But wish you the very best. It's great to see the work you're doing. And you're not Andrew Wifo, you're Andrew Vibez. So this is not because of your father. You are doing your own thing, and wish you the very best. Thank you for shining the Nigerian light and waving that flag out there. In case you're wondering, he actually went to the University of Benin, majored in sculpture.
Sculpture, yes.
Can you imagine? So you're sculpting good music. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be speaking with the phenomenal Alexander Wifo. We all know him as Andre Vibez. Yes, he's the son of a legendary Victor Wifo, but he's paving his own way. Thank you so much, Andre.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Things like this shouldn't end, but we're time bound. We have to run right now, but don't worry. Sunrise Daily is next. You get all of the updates that you need and the angles. But from here, I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
And it's the start of a new week and another month, so make it count. Join us again tomorrow and indeed throughout the week. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Jeffrey Uzong. Bye-bye.